Discipline means making yourself do what needs to be done, even when every part of you would rather avoid it. Most people run away from this truth, yet this is exactly what divides those who succeed from those who fail. You cannot rely on feeling ready, because if you wait for the perfect moment, you will stay in the same place forever. You cannot depend on motivation either, because motivation rises and falls. Discipline is not a choice you make only on days when you feel good. It is the decision you make every single day, especially when everything feels heavy and difficult. Ask yourself honestly, how many chances have you already lost because you kept delaying what you knew you should do? How many times has comfort stolen progress from you? This is not about theories or nice ideas. This is about facts. It is about learning to take control of yourself in the exact moments when excuses are the loudest and most convincing. If you can force yourself to be disciplined in those moments, you can transform every area of your life. And that is what you are about to train yourself to do. To begin, you must look laziness directly in the face and refuse to bargain with it. Discipline is not an accident. It is not something that suddenly appears at your door one day with a smile. Discipline is something you choose to confront. It is something you intentionally push into your life when every instinct tells you to escape. When you feel laziness pulling at you, when your body tells you to stay in bed, when your mind whispers that you deserve another break, that is precisely the moment when you must stand up and stop negotiating. Because if you allow even one negotiation with laziness, it will win the argument again and again. Laziness never runs out of reasons. It will always come up with one more excuse, one more justification, one more story that sounds reasonable in the moment. But if you refuse to enter that discussion, if you plant your feet firmly and act anyway, you start building a type of strength that can completely reshape your life. Laziness does not always look like doing nothing. Often it hides behind activities that seem harmless. It can look like scrolling endlessly on your phone. It can show up as eating when you are not hungry. It can appear as fake productivity, busy work that fills time but keeps you away from what truly matters. That is how laziness wins. It tricks you into believing you are doing enough while you quietly avoid the difficult work that would really move you forward. Yet progress is always hiding inside what is uncomfortable. The tasks that stretch you, the actions that make you sweat, the work that requires your full attention, these are the things that shape you into a disciplined person. If you want to become truly disciplined, you must learn to see laziness clearly for what it is, the enemy of your future. When you wake up and feel the weight of the bed trying to keep you down, that is discipline calling your name. You either answer that call or you turn away from it. Every time you choose to turn away, you are not just taking it easy for one day. You are strengthening your laziness. Every time you pick comfort instead of action, you are training your mind to obey your weakest impulses. Then, when life requires your focus and commitment the most, you will already be conditioned to give up. This is why bargaining with laziness is so dangerous. Even the smallest excuse starts to shape who you are becoming. You may think you are just skipping a single workout or postponing one important task. But what you are really doing is strengthening the habit of saying no to discipline. Ask yourself, how often have you chosen the easy path instead of the necessary one? How many times have you said, "I'll do it tomorrow," and then noticed that tomorrow looked exactly like today? That is laziness negotiating with you, and you accepting the offer. If you truly want a better life, you cannot keep accepting that deal. You have to confront laziness directly. You look it in the eye and refuse every agreement it offers. You say no. You move into action in that exact moment, even if your mind is screaming that you do not want to. That is how you force discipline into your system. Most people are not stuck because they lack information or chances. They are stuck because they keep negotiating with laziness. They keep waiting to feel ready. They keep waiting for their situation to be perfect. They keep waiting for motivation to magically appear. But those things rarely arrive when you need them. If you sit around waiting for the ideal feeling, you will wait for the rest of your life. Discipline starts when you act before you feel ready. It starts when you recognize laziness and move forward in spite of it. The human mind is brilliant at creating comfort. It tells you stories like, you worked hard yesterday, so take it easy today. It tells you, you don't have the energy right now, you can do it later. It whispers, missing one day won't change anything. These are not innocent thoughts. They are mental chains. They hold you at the same level, with the same results, and the same life. If you agree with them, you slowly become weaker without even noticing. You think you are only giving yourself a break, but in reality, you are training yourself to surrender when things get hard. This is why you must develop the ability to recognize these thoughts and cut them off before they take control. Think about the people you look up to, the ones who seem incredibly consistent, focused, and strong. They are not necessarily more gifted than you. They are not simply lucky. They are people who stopped bargaining with laziness. They built discipline by refusing to give space to excuses and by forcing themselves to move even when they did not feel like it. That is the real secret. It is not dramatic. It is not glamorous. It is the simple but powerful ability to say no to weakness inside you and yes to the actions that push you forward. Forcing yourself to be disciplined is not about punishing yourself for the sake of suffering. It is about respect. It is about respecting your future so much that you make choices today that will benefit you tomorrow. When you stop negotiating with laziness, you are sending yourself a clear message: I am worth the effort. My future is worth the sacrifice. My goals are worth the discomfort. That is not self-punishment. That is the highest form of self-respect. Laziness will never fully disappear. It will show up tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. You cannot erase it from your life, but you can weaken it. You can take away its strength by refusing to give in. Every time you choose action over excuses, you take some of your power back. Over time, the balance shifts. Laziness grows weaker. Discipline grows stronger, until discipline is no longer something you occasionally do. It becomes a core part of who you are. This change begins in a single moment, the moment you decide to stop negotiating. It will not feel easy at first. Your body will resist. Your mind will argue. You will hear every excuse and every reason to delay. But you must understand that this is the precise moment when discipline is created. Not when life is simple. Not when you feel inspired. Only when it is difficult and you do not want to move. That is where real strength is formed and where a disciplined life truly begins. The person who says, I will do it now, I will move even when I do not feel like it, I will not bargain with laziness, is the person who builds a life of freedom, success, and growth. That person can be you. So keep this in mind. The next time laziness calls, do not pick up. The next time it starts whispering, silence it. The next time it offers you comfort, reject the offer. Stay firm. Take action. Strengthen yourself one decision at a time. And remember, the instant you stop negotiating with laziness is the instant you push yourself into discipline. Discipline is the road that changes everything. To become that kind of person, you must train yourself to act through small, immediate actions. Discipline is not created in huge dramatic moments. It does not suddenly appear after one powerful decision. It grows out of simple actions taken right when they are needed. Every time you hesitate, every time you delay, you weaken your natural ability to respond. Real discipline is built by learning to act quickly, without long internal debates. The longer you wait, the more time you give your mind to search for excuses. You start thinking of reasons to delay, to push things to later, to avoid discomfort. Hesitation becomes a habit. And when hesitation becomes a habit, discipline begins to fade. This is why instant action is so important. It is not just about getting things done. It is about training your brain to move instead of stall. You start with the smallest things. You notice a glass on the table, and you feel the thought, I should put that away. Move immediately. You remember you need to reply to a message. Do it now. You think about stretching for a moment. Stand up and stretch. You remember something important you need to write down. Grab a pen and capture it right away. Each time you act like this, you are building a bridge between thought and action. But when you ignore those signals, you weaken that bridge. You tell yourself, I will do it later. You convince yourself it is not urgent. You push it to the back of your mind. Over time, your brain learns that your own decisions are not serious. It learns that when you say you will do something, it does not really matter. And when that message sinks in, your discipline begins to crumble from the inside. Think about how many times this has already happened. You felt the urge to clean something up, but you said you would handle it later and never did. You thought about sending an email, but you let it sit for days. You had an idea you wanted to write, but you told yourself it could wait and then forgot it. These situations may feel minor in the moment, but they slowly train you to ignore your own direction. They teach your mind that hesitation is acceptable, even normal. Now imagine the opposite pattern. Imagine that every time you had the thought to act, you followed through. You thought about drinking water, so you took a sip. You thought about opening a book, so you started reading. You remembered an important task, so you wrote it down or took the first small step toward it. In this version of your life, you are not just wishing to be disciplined. You are proving it through every small movement you make. When you live this way, you build deep self-trust. You begin to believe yourself when you say, I will do this. Your mind understands that your thoughts lead to action, not endless delay. That connection between intention and movement becomes stronger with every decision. And then something powerful happens. The same instinct that helps you act on small tasks starts to help you act on bigger challenges too. Putting away a dish when you notice it seems insignificant. Answering a short message right away feels unimportant. Writing down a quick idea might seem like it does not change your life. But these small actions are like training repetitions for your discipline. They are mental push-ups. They prepare you for the larger tests where more effort, more courage, and more focus are required. If you can act instantly on the small things, it becomes much easier to act instantly when it really counts. The goal is not to obsess over every tiny detail. The goal is to become the kind of person who does not argue with what needs to be done. You want to train yourself to respond instead of delay, to move instead of explain, to act instead of negotiate. Over time, this becomes part of your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who struggles to start. You start seeing yourself as someone who moves when it is time to move. This instant response becomes your defense against laziness, procrastination, and wasted time. It becomes the tool that helps you live with focus and strength. It turns discipline from a distant dream into a daily reality. Your life begins to feel more ordered, more intentional, and more powerful. Not because everything suddenly became easy, but because you stopped giving hesitation control over your actions. The disciplined life is built in these exact moments when action is possible and your mind tries to push it away. Not tomorrow, not one day in the future, but right now, in the decision you make today. Take small actions as soon as they appear in your mind and you will train yourself to respond immediately. That habit of instant movement becomes your foundation. It supports your goals, protects your time, and slowly builds a life that grows stronger every single day. There is another important part of discipline that many people ignore. Discipline is not only about pushing yourself to start. It is also about staying with the task long after the first burst of energy has disappeared. Anyone can feel determined for a few minutes. The real test begins when the excitement fades, when the work becomes repetitive, and when progress feels slow. In those moments, discipline means staying in the process even when your emotions no longer support you. You will notice that your mind looks for escape routes. It starts to offer you alternatives that feel more pleasant. It tells you to check your phone for just a moment, to open another tab, to switch to something easier. None of these suggestions arrive as open sabotage. They arrive as small, innocent ideas that sound reasonable. But every time you accept one of them, you break your focus and weaken your discipline. Staying disciplined means closing those doors as soon as they appear. You choose to remain with the task in front of you. You keep typing one more line, reading one more page, completing one more repetition. You train yourself to stay in the discomfort until the work is done or until the time you decided to dedicate has fully passed. This simple act of staying, not running away, is one of the most powerful skills you can develop. You can make this easier by setting clear limits before you begin. Decide in advance how long you will work, how many pages you will read, or how many sets you will complete. Then give yourself a simple rule. During that time, you do not negotiate. You do not discuss with yourself whether you feel like continuing. You simply respect the commitment you already made. When the time is over, you can rest with a clear mind, knowing that you stayed true to your decision. Without these clear limits, your mind will constantly test your resolve. It will ask whether you have done enough. It will tell you that you are too tired to go on. It will point out how slow the progress seems. If you listen to these voices, you will stop early again and again. You will build a habit of quitting as soon as things become uncomfortable. Then every future challenge will feel heavier, because deep down you will remember how often you walked away before finishing. But when you train yourself to stay until the end, something changes inside you. You begin to see yourself as reliable. You start to believe that when you say you will do something, you will follow through until it is complete. This belief is not built through dramatic victories. It is built through many ordinary moments where you simply refuse to quit. You are shaping an identity, one repetition at a time. This identity becomes a shield against doubt. When a new challenge appears, you no longer think of all the times you gave up. Instead, you remember the days when you stayed with your work even when it was boring or tiring. You remember the evenings when you felt like stopping but kept going for 10 more minutes. You remember the mornings when you did not feel ready but started anyway and finished what you had planned. These memories become proof that you can rely on yourself. Discipline is also about doing the right work, not just staying busy. It is possible to spend hours in front of a screen and still avoid the tasks that truly matter. You can rearrange files, adjust small details, or consume information, all while ignoring the one important action that would actually move you forward. Real discipline requires honesty. It asks you to look at your day and identify the few actions that genuinely create progress. Once you have identified those actions, discipline means placing them first. You do the important work before you sink your energy into minor tasks. You write before you organize. You train before you scroll. You create before you consume. This order matters. When you reverse it, your energy is gone by the time you reach what really counts. When you respect it, your best focus is invested where it can have the greatest effect. There will always be distractions trying to pull you away from this priority. Some of them will come from outside, like notifications, messages, and invitations. Others will come from inside, like doubts, fears, and the desire for comfort. Discipline does not mean you never feel these things. It means you acknowledge them and still move in the direction you chose. You notice the urge to stop, but you do not obey it. You notice the fear of failure, but you do the work anyway. Over time, this way of living creates momentum. Each disciplined action makes the next one slightly easier. Each completed session adds a small stone to the foundation you are building. At first, the changes may be invisible. You might not see results in the mirror or in your bank account right away. But inside, something powerful is taking place. You are becoming a person whose actions are stronger than their excuses, whose commitments are stronger than their moods. This is the deeper meaning of discipline. It is not only about willpower in isolated situations. It is about designing a way of life where your daily actions are aligned with the person you want to become. You start your tasks without waiting to feel ready. You stay with them even when they feel heavy. You choose the important work over empty busyness. And every time you do this, you step further away from the version of yourself that lived on hesitation and comfort, and closer to the version that moves with clarity, strength, and purpose. Discipline also means understanding that every action you take is a small vote for the person you are becoming. When you choose to follow through, even in a very small way, you are voting for the disciplined version of yourself. When you choose to ignore what you said you would do, you are voting for the version of yourself that stays stuck. One action will not define your entire life, but repeated actions will. Over time, they shape your identity, your results, and your future. This is why treating small decisions as unimportant is dangerous. Skipping one workout, leaving one task unfinished, or wasting one evening may not seem like a big deal. But what truly matters is the pattern you are building. Each time you avoid the thing you know you should do, you make it easier to avoid it again next time. Each time you show up and do the work, you make it easier to show up again. The pattern, not the single event, is what builds or destroys discipline. When you start to see your choices in this way, you realize that discipline is not about perfection. It is not about never making mistakes or never having a bad day. Discipline is about returning to the path quickly. It is about refusing to let one missed action turn into a lost week or a lost month. You might fall, but you do not stay down. You stand up, recommit, and move again in the direction you chose. This attitude protects you from the trap of all or nothing thinking. Many people break their own discipline because they demand perfection from themselves. The moment they miss one day or make one mistake, they believe they have failed completely. Then, instead of getting back on track the next day, they surrender. They tell themselves there is no point in continuing since they already broke the streak. This is how a single slip can grow into a long period of stagnation. You must learn to see setbacks as part of the process, not as the end of it. When you miss a day, you do not attack yourself with guilt and criticism. Instead, you calmly look at what happened, learn from it, and then act again as soon as possible. The faster you return to disciplined action, the less power the setback has over you. You show yourself that even when you fall, you are still the kind of person who gets back up. This mindset also helps you stay patient. Discipline is closely connected to patience because real progress often arrives more slowly than you would like. You may work for weeks or months without seeing big external changes. The temptation is to think that your efforts are useless, that nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, your habits are strengthening, your focus is sharpening, and your resilience is growing. These inner changes are the foundation on which visible results are built. Instead of obsessing over instant results, focus on becoming the type of person who follows through. Ask yourself at the end of each day, did I act in alignment with the person I want to become? If the answer is yes, even in small ways, then you are moving in the right direction. If the answer is no, do not drown in regret. Use that discomfort as fuel to make different choices tomorrow. Discipline grows when you connect your daily actions to your deeper values. Your environment plays a huge role in this process. It is difficult to stay disciplined if everything around you pulls you toward distraction and laziness. If your phone is always within reach, if notifications constantly flash on your screen, if your workspace is chaotic, then you are always fighting uphill. Discipline is not only about inner strength. It is also about creating an outer world that supports your goals instead of destroying them. You can help yourself by making disciplined actions the easy choice and distractions the difficult choice. Put your phone in another room when you need to focus. Keep the tools you need for your important work close and ready to use. Prepare your workout clothes the night before. Clear your desk before starting a deep work session. These small adjustments remove friction from the actions that matter and add friction to the behaviors that waste your time. When you do this, you are not cheating. You are being smart. You are designing your life in a way that makes discipline more natural. The more your environment supports your goals, the less energy you waste on resisting temptation. Your willpower is limited, so use it wisely. Spend it on doing the hard work, not on constantly battling distractions that you could have removed in advance. Over time, this combination of clear identity, patient mindset, and supportive environment creates a powerful momentum in your life. You start to feel that discipline is not something you are forcing from the outside, but something that rises from within. Your actions, your surroundings, and your beliefs begin to work together instead of against each other. You trust yourself more, you waste less time, and you move with more purpose through each day. This is the kind of disciplined life you are capable of creating. It does not require perfection. It does not require you to become a different person overnight. It requires small, consistent actions, honest self-reflection, and the courage to keep moving forward even when progress feels slow. One decision at a time, one day at a time, you can build a future where your habits support your dreams and where your discipline becomes a quiet but unstoppable force in everything you do. One of the greatest misunderstandings about discipline is the belief that you must feel strong all the time in order to act. In reality, discipline often appears when you feel weak, tired, doubtful, or unmotivated. It is the choice to move forward even while those feelings are present. You do not wait for them to disappear. You carry them with you and act anyway. That is what separates disciplined action from emotional impulse. Your emotions will always rise and fall. Some days you will wake up with energy and clarity. Other days you will feel heavy, uncertain, or disconnected from your goals. If your actions are controlled by these changing emotions, your progress will always be unstable. You will move forward when you feel good and stop as soon as the feelings shift. Discipline is the decision to keep going regardless of the emotional weather inside you. This does not mean ignoring your emotions completely. It means learning to listen to them without letting them drive your life. When you feel resistance, you notice it and name it. You might think to yourself, I feel unmotivated right now, or I feel afraid to start. But instead of waiting for those feelings to change, you gently move your body into action. You sit down, you open the document, you step into the workout, you start the task. Very often, your emotions begin to change after you start moving. Action is one of the most powerful ways to shift your emotional state. When you sit still, your mind has space to create doubts, fears, and excuses. But when you take even a small step, you prove to yourself that you are not trapped by those thoughts. You show yourself that you can act even when you do not feel ready. Over time, this gives you confidence. You stop believing that your feelings are in charge of your life. Another key part of discipline is learning to zoom out. When you are in the middle of difficult work, your mind focuses on the discomfort of the present moment. It thinks about how hard it feels right now, how much effort is required, how far away the result seems. If you only look at this narrow frame, quitting will always appear attractive. To stay disciplined, you must train yourself to look beyond the current moment and remember the future you are building. Ask yourself, how will I feel tonight if I follow through on this? How will I feel next month if I keep showing up like this? How will my life look a year from now if I continue to act with this level of discipline? These questions shift your attention away from temporary discomfort and toward long-term satisfaction. They remind you that the pain of effort is small compared to the pain of regret. You can also use this zoomed-out perspective when you feel tempted to break your commitments. Before you skip a session, break a promise to yourself, or walk away from your plan, pause and imagine your future. Picture the version of you who always gives in to these temptations. What kind of life are they living? Now picture the version of you who consistently keeps going. Which version do you want to become? Discipline is choosing in favor of that future version, even when it costs you something in the present. There is always a price to pay. You either pay the price of discipline today or the price of regret later. The price of discipline is effort, discomfort, and the temporary sacrifice of comfort. The price of regret is heavier. It shows up as lost opportunities, unexplored potential, and the quiet feeling that you betrayed yourself. Both prices are real, but only one of them leads you toward the life you actually want. Understanding this helps you see discipline as a form of protection. It protects you from the pain of looking back on your life and knowing you held yourself back. Every time you act with discipline, you are protecting your future from unnecessary regret. You are building a life you can be proud of, not because it is perfect, but because you know you showed up with honesty and effort. To live this way, you must also learn to speak to yourself differently. Many people try to motivate themselves through harsh self-talk. They insult themselves for being lazy, call themselves names, and believe that being cruel will somehow push them into action. But this usually creates the opposite effect. It fills your mind with shame and resistance, which drains your energy and makes it harder to act. Discipline does not mean attacking yourself. It means guiding yourself firmly but respectfully. Instead of saying, "I am useless for not doing this," you say, "I am capable of more and I am going to prove it now." Instead of saying, "I always fail," you say, "I have slipped before, but today I choose differently." This kind of inner dialogue treats you as someone worth supporting, not someone deserving of punishment. When you combine firm decisions with supportive self-talk, something powerful happens. You are no longer fighting against yourself. Your mind and your actions begin to move in the same direction. You still experience resistance, but you meet it with understanding instead of hatred. You still have doubts, but you do not let them decide your behavior. You become both the leader and the supporter of your own life. This inner alliance is one of the strongest foundations for true discipline. You are not acting out of fear, shame, or self-hatred. You are acting out of commitment to the person you want to become. You respect yourself enough to demand effort, and you care about yourself enough to offer encouragement along the way. This balance between firmness and kindness allows you to stay disciplined for the long term without burning out or turning against yourself. Discipline also shows itself in the routines you build. Your daily routines are like invisible structures that guide your behavior without you having to think about every single action. When your routines are weak or chaotic, you depend on willpower for everything. But when your routines are strong, many disciplined actions happen almost automatically. You wake up, you move, you work, you study, not because you feel inspired each time, but because this is simply what you do. To create these kinds of routines, you must begin with clarity. You decide what truly matters in your life right now. Maybe it is your health, your studies, your work, your relationships, or a project that is important to you. Once you know your priorities, you design simple daily or weekly actions that reflect them. You do not try to change everything at once. You choose a few key behaviors and you place them in specific times of your day so they become anchored in your schedule. For example, you might decide that your mornings are for moving your body and your evenings are for learning. You might choose to write for 30 minutes after breakfast and read for 20 minutes before bed. These routines do not need to be huge to be powerful. What matters most is consistency. When you repeat the same action at the same time over and over, your mind begins to expect it. The resistance becomes weaker, and starting becomes easier. At first, these routines will feel uncomfortable. Your old habits will try to pull you back into familiar patterns. You might feel a strong urge to reach for your phone instead of doing your planned task. You might feel the temptation to stay in bed a little longer instead of getting up. This is normal. It is simply the friction between your current identity and the new identity you are building. Discipline is what carries you through this friction until the new pattern becomes natural. You can make this process smoother by lowering the barrier to entry. If you want to read more, keep a book on your pillow so you see it every night. If you want to exercise more, prepare your clothes and shoes the evening before. If you want to focus on deep work, set up your workspace in advance so you can sit down and begin without searching for tools. These small preparations send a message to your future self. They say, "I expect you to show up. I am making it easier for you to do the right thing." Discipline also means knowing when to say no. Every time you say yes to something unimportant, you are indirectly saying no to something important. Your time, your energy, and your attention are limited. If you allow them to be consumed by distractions, obligations that do not matter, or empty entertainment, you will have little left for the actions that actually change your life. Learning to say no with confidence is a crucial part of a disciplined life. This does not mean you must become cold or selfish. It means you become honest about your limits and your priorities. You cannot please everyone. You cannot attend every event, join every project, or respond to every message immediately. Discipline means choosing carefully where you place your effort. It means being willing to disappoint others occasionally so that you do not constantly disappoint yourself. You will notice that some people do not understand these choices. They may tease you for working on your goals. They may try to pull you back into old habits. They may tell you that you are taking things too seriously. In those moments, discipline means remembering why you started. You do not argue or try to convince everyone. You simply stay loyal to your path. The results you create over time will speak more loudly than any explanation you could give. At the same time, you can strengthen your discipline by surrounding yourself with people who share your values. When you spend time with individuals who are focused, committed, and driven, their habits influence you. You see that disciplined living is possible. You feel encouraged to keep going. You are reminded that the challenges you face are not unique to you. Others have overcome them and so can you. Finding this kind of environment may require you to make changes. You might spend less time with people who constantly complain or avoid responsibility. You might join groups, communities, or spaces where growth, effort, and learning are respected. You might limit your exposure to content that drags you into comparison or distraction and choose instead to consume material that supports your goals, like educational resources, meaningful conversations, and tools such as momentum audiobooks that keep you focused and learning. Remember that discipline is not a single skill you practice in isolation. It touches every part of your life. It appears in how you manage your time, how you move your body, how you eat, how you rest, how you speak to others, and how you speak to yourself. Every area offers you a chance to practice. Each time you act with intention instead of impulse, you are strengthening the same inner muscle. As this inner strength grows, you stop feeling like a passenger in your own life. You no longer move only where your emotions or circumstances push you. You begin to feel like the driver. You choose your direction, you adjust your pace, and you stay on the road even when the weather is rough. That is the quiet power of discipline. It does not shout. It does not need applause. It shows itself through your steady, determined movement toward the life you know you are capable of living. Discipline is not only about how hard you work. It is also about how wisely you manage your energy. If you push yourself without any structure, without any rest, and without any care for your limits, you will eventually crash. Real discipline is not chaos. It is a balanced rhythm of effort and recovery. It is knowing when to push and when to pause so that you can continue for the long term instead of burning out after a short burst. Many people confuse exhaustion with dedication. They believe that being constantly tired is proof that they are serious about their goals. But discipline is not about destroying yourself. It is about building yourself. There is a difference between productive effort and mindless overwork. Productive effort moves you forward and leaves you stronger. Mindless overwork drains you, weakens your focus, and makes it harder to stay consistent. Discipline helps you tell the difference and choose wisely. One of the most disciplined decisions you can make is to protect your sleep. When you consistently ignore rest, your concentration drops, your mood becomes unstable, and your willpower weakens. Tasks that once felt manageable begin to feel impossible. In that state, even simple actions require huge effort. Taking sleep seriously is not laziness. It is maintenance. It is giving your body and mind the basic support they need so you can keep showing up with strength. The same is true for breaks. Short, intentional breaks are different from long periods of avoidance. A break is a conscious choice to step away for a moment so that you can return with more clarity. Avoidance is an unconscious habit of running away from what needs to be done. Discipline means you schedule your breaks instead of escaping into them. You decide when you will pause and when you will return, and then you stick to that plan. You can think of yourself as an athlete in training. An athlete does not train at maximum intensity every minute of every day. They have structured sessions, warm-ups, cool-downs, and days of recovery. This is not weakness. It is strategy. In the same way, you can build structure into your own life. You decide your focused work periods, your training times, your learning sessions, and your rest. You treat your time and energy as valuable resources, not as things to be used carelessly. Discipline also means staying flexible enough to adapt without giving up. Life will not always follow your plans. Some days unexpected events will appear. You might get sick, face an emergency, or have responsibilities that interrupt your routine. In those moments, discipline is not about pretending nothing happened. It is about adjusting your plan while staying committed to your direction. Maybe you cannot complete a full session, but you can still do a smaller version. Maybe you cannot follow your original schedule, but you can still find 20 focused minutes. When you adapt in this way, you protect your momentum. You avoid the trap of saying, "Today is ruined, so nothing matters." Instead, you say, "Today is difficult, but I will still do what I can." This attitude keeps your identity as a disciplined person alive, even on your hardest days. You prove to yourself that discipline is not fragile. It does not disappear the moment circumstances change. It bends, adjusts, and continues. Another important aspect of discipline is learning to focus on what you can control and letting go of what you cannot. There will always be factors outside your influence, other people's opinions, unexpected delays, external conditions. If you spend your energy fighting these things, you will feel powerless and frustrated. Discipline means bringing your attention back to what is in your hands, your effort, your preparation, your attitude, and your response. When something goes wrong, you do not waste time blaming everything around you. You ask yourself, "What can I do now?" Maybe you can learn from the situation, improve your skills, refine your strategy, or simply try again. This focus on controllable actions keeps you moving. It prevents you from falling into the role of a victim and reminds you that, no matter what happens, you still have choices. Discipline also shapes the way you handle temptation. Temptation is not always loud or dramatic. Often it is soft, quiet, and familiar. It shows up as the urge to check your phone, the idea of watching just one more video, or the thought that you deserve a treat before you start working. Discipline does not mean you never enjoy comfort or pleasure. It means you decide when and how you enjoy them so that they do not steal your goals from you. One useful strategy is to move your rewards to the end of your actions instead of the beginning. Instead of relaxing first and working later, you work first and relax after. Instead of watching something before you study and then allow yourself to watch. This simple reversal keeps your priorities clear. It trains your mind to understand that pleasure is something you can experience with a clean conscience after you have honored your responsibilities. Over time, these patterns begin to feel natural. What once felt like a hard choice becomes your default. You no longer debate with yourself for an hour before starting. You do not spend the whole day arguing in your mind. You simply follow the structures, routines, and rules you created for yourself. In this way, discipline actually creates more freedom. You waste less time on internal conflict and have more time for real living, learning, and growing. It is important to remember that everyone's version of discipline will look a little different. Your path does not need to match anyone else's schedule, routines, or methods. What matters is that your actions are aligned with your own values and goals. Discipline is personal. It is the private agreement you make with yourself about the kind of life you are committed to building. You are not competing with anyone. You are simply working to become your own strongest, clearest, and most reliable self. Whenever you feel discouraged, remind yourself of how far you have already come. Every moment when you chose effort over excuses, every habit you have improved, every promise you kept to yourself, these are real victories. They may not always be visible to others, but they are shaping you from the inside. Discipline is often quiet and invisible in the beginning, but its effects accumulate. Day after day, choice after choice, it builds a life that reflects your deepest intentions instead of your passing moods. True discipline is not something that appears only in big, dramatic moments. It is built quietly in the small, ordinary choices you make each day. It shows up when no one is watching, when there is no applause, no reward, and no immediate result. In those silent moments, you decide who you are. You either repeat the same patterns that have kept you stuck, or you choose differently and take one more step toward the person you want to become. Many people wait for a breakthrough, a huge event that will change everything at once. But lasting change is rarely born from a single explosion of effort. It grows like a slow flame that you protect and feed over time. Every time you choose to focus instead of drift, to move instead of delay, to act instead of overthink, you are feeding that flame. You will not always feel the difference right away, but discipline is working inside you, shaping your character and your future. One practical way to strengthen your discipline is to remove the need for constant decisions. The more choices you must make in a day, the more tired your mind becomes. When your mind is tired, it becomes easier to slip back into comfort and distraction. To avoid this, you can decide certain things in advance. You can plan what time you will wake up, when you will train, when you will study, and what tasks you will focus on first. When these decisions are already made, you do not wake up each morning asking what you should do today. You already know. You simply follow the plan you created with a clear mind. This does not mean your schedule must be perfect or rigid, but it should give you a clear structure. Within that structure, your job is simple: show up and do what you said you would do. The fewer debates you have with yourself, the easier it is to stay disciplined. Another helpful approach is to measure what you are doing. You do not need to obsess over numbers, but gentle tracking can keep you honest with yourself. You can note how many days you followed through on your habits, how many sessions you completed, how many pages you read, or how many hours you dedicated to your craft. These simple records act like a mirror. They show you the truth of your actions, not just your intentions. Looking at this mirror can be uncomfortable sometimes. You might realize that you have been less consistent than you believed. But this honesty is a gift. Without it, you could spend months thinking you are moving forward while staying in the same place. With it, you can adjust, refocus, and recommit. Discipline grows when you are willing to see reality clearly and respond to it, instead of hiding from it. At the same time, you must be careful not to let tracking turn into self-punishment. Numbers are information, not judgment. If you miss a day or fall short of a target, you do not use it as a weapon against yourself. You use it as feedback. You ask what made this difficult and what you can change to make it easier next time. Maybe you need to choose a smaller starting point, a different time of day, or a clearer trigger for your habit. Discipline is not stubbornness. It is intelligent persistence. You can also support your discipline by creating small rituals that signal the beginning of important actions. For example, you might always make a specific drink before sitting down to work, take 3 deep breaths before beginning a workout, or put on headphones when it is time to focus. Over time, these simple rituals teach your brain to shift into a productive state more quickly. They act like mental switches that tell your body that now you begin. These rituals do not need to be complicated. Their power comes from repetition. The more often you pair a ritual with a specific action, the stronger the association becomes. Eventually, just starting the ritual will make it easier to step into the work itself. This helps you move through resistance with less effort, because your mind recognizes the pattern and prepares itself automatically. Discipline also includes how you react after you succeed. It is easy to work hard until the first visible result appears and then relax so much that you slide back to where you started. You might reach a fitness goal and then stop training, complete a project and then stop learning, or improve your habits and then slowly allow old behaviors to return. Discipline is what keeps you grounded after progress, not only before it. When you reach a goal, celebrate it, but do not abandon the habits that brought you there. Ask yourself what kind of routines you need to keep if you want to maintain and grow these results. Then keep following them. Your goal is not just to touch success for a brief moment, but to build a life where progress is normal. That stability comes from staying disciplined even after the excitement of achievement fades. It is also important to remember that discipline and self-worth are connected. When you repeatedly break your own promises, you start to feel that your word has no value. This slowly erodes your confidence. On the other hand, when you keep your promises, even small ones, you begin to feel a quiet strength inside. You start to trust yourself. You know that when you say you will do something, you mean it. This trust cannot be faked. It is built through action. No one can give it to you and no one can take it away. Every day, through your choices, you either weaken it or reinforce it. That is why discipline matters so much. It is not just about productivity or achievement. It is about the relationship you have with yourself. When you act in alignment with your own values and commitments, you feel whole. When you betray them, you feel divided. By choosing discipline again and again, you are not just shaping your schedule. You are shaping your identity. You are becoming someone you can rely on, someone you respect, someone whose actions reflect their deepest intentions. That is a powerful way to live, and it is available to you through the simple, repeated choice to do what needs to be done, even when it is not easy, even when no one else is watching. As you continue to practice discipline, you will notice that it changes the way you see challenges. What once looked like a wall begins to look more like a doorway. You stop asking why this is so hard and start asking how you can move through it. Obstacles stop feeling like proof that you should quit and start feeling like invitations to grow stronger. This shift in perspective is one of the clearest signs that discipline is becoming part of who you are. Difficult days will still come. You will still have moments when you feel tired, doubtful, or overwhelmed. But instead of letting those moments define you, you learn to move inside them. You break big tasks into smaller steps. You focus on the next action, not the entire journey. You tell yourself that you may not be able to do everything today, but you can do something. And then you do it. This is how you keep moving forward, even when progress feels slow or invisible. In time, you begin to realize that discipline is closely connected to self-respect. When you avoid the things you know are important, a quiet tension grows inside you. You feel the gap between who you are being and who you know you could be. This gap creates frustration, low energy, and a sense that something is missing. Discipline closes that gap. Each time you act in alignment with your values and goals, you feel more united within yourself. You also notice that discipline affects your relationships. When you become more reliable with yourself, you naturally become more reliable with others. You show up on time more often. You keep your word more consistently. You listen with more presence because your mind is less occupied by unfinished tasks and broken promises. People feel this difference. They sense that you are grounded, steady, and trustworthy. This does not mean you must be perfect for people to respect you. It means you are honest about your limits and sincere in your efforts. When you make a mistake, you take responsibility. When you cannot keep a commitment, you communicate clearly instead of disappearing. Discipline gives you the strength to face uncomfortable conversations instead of hiding from them. Over time, this creates deeper trust and stronger connections. Another way discipline transforms your life is by making your goals more realistic. Many people dream without structure. They have big visions but no habits to support them. Discipline brings your dreams down to earth in a powerful way. It turns vague wishes into clear plans and big ambitions into daily actions. You stop saying that someday you will and start saying that today you will do one concrete thing that moves you closer. This steady, practical approach may not look glamorous from the outside, but it is precisely what creates real change. You no longer depend on sudden bursts of motivation or perfect conditions. You work with what you have, where you are, using the time and energy available to you today. Some days you will move quickly. Other days you will move slowly. But you keep moving. That constancy is far more important than speed. You may also notice that as you become more disciplined, your standards quietly rise. Not in a harsh or obsessive way, but in a natural way. You start to expect more from yourself because you have proven that you are capable of more. You no longer feel satisfied with half-hearted effort. You want to give your best, not to impress others, but because you know how it feels to look back on a day and truly respect how you spent it. At the same time, you become more compassionate with others. When you experience for yourself how challenging it can be to stay disciplined, you stop judging people so quickly for their struggles. You understand that change is hard, that resistance is real, and that everyone is fighting battles you cannot see. This combination of high standards for yourself and understanding for others is a powerful balance. It keeps you striving without becoming arrogant, and kind without becoming weak. As discipline deepens, your relationship with time also changes. You stop seeing time only as something that slips away and start seeing it as something you can shape. An hour of focused effort begins to feel incredibly valuable because you know what you can create with it. You no longer throw hours away on habits that leave you empty. You become more selective. You ask yourself often if this is how you want to spend the limited time you have. This awareness does not need to make you anxious. Instead, it can make you feel more alive. When you recognize that your days are not endless, you start to live them more fully. You become more intentional with both work and rest. When you rest, you truly rest instead of half resting and half scrolling. When you work, you truly work instead of half working and half distracting yourself. Discipline gives each moment a clearer purpose. Little by little, this way of living builds a life that feels coherent. Your actions match your priorities. Your habits reflect your values. Your daily life becomes a real expression of what matters most to you, not a random collection of reactions and impulses. And while this transformation does not happen overnight, it does happen, one disciplined choice at a time, in ordinary days that slowly add up to something extraordinary. In the end, discipline is the quiet decision to live on purpose instead of by accident. It is the choice to shape your days instead of letting your days shape you. It is not about becoming someone rigid, tense, or joyless. It is about becoming someone who can be trusted with their own potential, someone who treats their time, energy, and abilities as something valuable rather than something to be thrown away. You do not have to wait for a special moment to begin. You do not need a new year, a new week, or a perfect plan. You can start from exactly where you are, with the tools you already have and the situation you are living in right now. Discipline always begins in the present moment. It begins when you say to yourself, I cannot change the past, but I can decide what I will do next. Your next action is always within your control, even when many other things are not. You might not be able to control how fast results arrive, how others respond, or what obstacles appear in your path. But you can control whether you take the next step. You can control whether you show up when you said you would. You can control whether you give your best to the task in front of you, even if your best today is smaller than your best on another day. This is why discipline is such a powerful force. It turns your focus away from what you cannot change and brings it back to what you can. It stops you from drowning in overthinking and pulls you into movement. It teaches you that progress is not a mystery reserved for a lucky few. Progress is the natural consequence of many small, honest actions repeated over time. There will still be days when you feel like you are not doing enough. There will be seasons when your growth is slow, when life is heavy, and when your energy is low. Discipline does not erase these seasons, but it gives you a way to move through them. On your strongest days, discipline helps you stretch further. On your weakest days, discipline helps you do at least a little instead of nothing. Both kinds of days matter. Both kinds of days count. You may be tempted to compare your journey with someone else's. You might look at people who seem more focused, more successful, or more advanced, and feel that you are behind. But discipline reminds you to bring your attention home. Your path is yours. Your starting point, your challenges, your responsibilities, and your strengths are unique. The only fair comparison is between who you are today and who you were yesterday. Ask yourself if you are moving more intentionally than you were before. Ask if you are keeping more promises to yourself than you did in the past. Ask if you are spending your time in ways that match what you say is important to you. If the answer is yes, even slightly, then you are on the right track. Discipline is not about sudden perfection. It is about steady direction. It is also helpful to remember that discipline and enjoyment are not enemies. At first, disciplined actions might feel stiff, forced, or uncomfortable. But over time, they create space for joy. When you know you are taking care of your responsibilities, it becomes easier to relax fully. When you know you are moving toward your goals, it becomes easier to feel proud of yourself. Pleasure feels different when it comes after effort. It becomes cleaner, deeper, and more satisfying. In many ways, discipline is a gift you give to your future self. The person you will be in 1 year, 5 years, or 10 years will live inside the consequences of the choices you are making now. They will either benefit from your discipline or suffer from your neglect. When you act with discipline today, you are sending support forward in time. You are making life a little easier, a little richer, and a little freer for the person you are becoming. Imagine that future version of yourself looking back at you now. Do they thank you for how you used your days, or do they wish you had taken things more seriously? Do they feel proud of the habits you built or burdened by the habits you refuse to change? Keeping this image in mind can help you stay steady when temptation appears. You are not only acting for the person you are today. You are acting for the person you have not yet met, but are already building. Of course, you will not be perfect. You will still make mistakes, waste time, and fall into old patterns sometimes. Discipline does not demand that you never fall. It calls you to rise more quickly. It reminds you that every moment is a chance to begin again. You can choose differently at the next decision, in the next hour, in the next day. As long as you keep returning to the path, you have not failed. Over time, this repeated return becomes its own kind of strength. You prove to yourself that setbacks do not own you. You learn that you can feel shame, frustration, or disappointment and still move forward. Discipline teaches you to hold both truth and hope at the same time. The truth is that you are human and imperfect. The hope is that you are also capable of growth far beyond what you can currently see. Eventually, the story you tell yourself begins to change. You no longer see yourself as someone who never follows through, someone who always quits, or someone who cannot be trusted with their own goals. You start to see yourself as someone who shows up, someone who adjusts instead of giving up, someone who keeps moving even when the road is long. This new story does not come from wishful thinking. It comes from evidence, from all the disciplined actions you have taken and will continue to take. So as you move forward from here, remember this. Discipline is not a special talent given to a few. It is a capacity you build, one decision at a time. It lives in the way you get out of bed, the way you start your work, the way you talk to yourself, the way you protect your time, and the way you return to your commitments after you fall. You do not need to feel ready to begin. You only need to be willing to take the next honest step. Start small if you must, but start. Keep your promises in the little things and let those victories grow. Allow discipline to become less of a fight and more of a natural expression of who you are choosing to be. With time, you will look back and realize that the person you once hoped to become is no longer a distant dream. They are you. Built through effort, shaped through repetition, strengthened through setbacks, and lived through disciplined action, one ordinary day after another.